Greetings, humans, unknown here, and welcome back to part 2 of What If Deku Had an Adaptation Quirk. Yeah, I know. It's been a while, but I really don't have any excuse. This is my second time recording it. I'm currently recording this at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I'm sorry if I sound a little quiet or tired. It's because of, well, I'm recording this at 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. I don't know when I'm gonna get the next What If out. I'm gonna try and get it out if I can as soon as possible. But we all know that that's really at any time. But with that being said, make sure to like, subscribe so you don't miss videos, and let's get into the video. So in the last part, speaking of, you guys should click on the playlist down below if you haven't seen any of the previous parts. It's going to be linked in the description, or it's going to be, well, linked in the description, and it's going to have a link to my Discord, which you can join if you want to, suggest any ideas. It's going to have my, what's it called? It's going to have my full adaptation Deku playlist, as well as my full Sage of Six Paths, What If Deku had the Sage of Six Paths from Naruto playlist. And yeah, it's gonna have all those. To check those out, watch them fully, and then maybe return back to here. At the very least, watch all of the other earlier adaptation Deku What Ifs, because otherwise you'll be pretty lost. Maybe, who knows. But in the last part, as a quick recap, we left off with the first encounter of the first sludge villain incident, and we left off with Midoriya refusing All Might's quirk for the second meeting after the Bakugo involved sludge villain incident, and that's where we're going to be resuming our What If. I'm sorry, All Might, but as you said earlier, I don't have what it takes to become a hero. If you had stated this before, why would you waste your quirk on someone like that? All Might looks at Midoriya, trying to somehow make up for what he had said on top of the roof. But Midoriya thanks All Might for the gesture and walks away before All Might could say anything else. All Might tries to stop him, but he's met with nothing. Midoriya ignores him and walks into his apartment. All Might doesn't want to bother him, seeing how he reacted, and just stands outside in his skinny form, defeated, not knowing what to do. For all that he knew, someone who really, really, really deserved one for all. Someone who had the makings of a great hero is now lost forever. All Might couldn't do anything about it now. All Might didn't know what to do. He didn't know what he did do. All Might sits there for who knows how long, pondering, wondering, what did I do? What am I going to do? That Midoriya child, he had the makings of a great hero. In fact, he could have been the best, but never mind. I'll try and see if I can ask him later. Maybe, hopefully, he'll accept it then. All Might walks off. Now back to Midoriya's point of view. He walks back. He walks into his house, or rather, into his apartment complex. Waves over to his mother, who doesn't even look up from what she's doing. Midoriya expected this common trend and walked into his room, laying defeated on the floor, which had been his bed. Midoriya lays there for hours, just sitting there. The one support pillar, the one thing holding him up, the one thing that he had grasped so dearly to, had now just fallen on top of him and crumbled his entire dreams. Midoriya didn't know what to think. Midoriya was lost, his mind in a complete fog, sitting there for hours, not knowing what to do. Ultimately, Midoriya decides that he's going to take a walk. Getting up and walking outside. It's pitch black outside, but Midoriya continues his walk. Further and further away from the city, further and further away from the common city, he's able to see more and more of the starry sky and the moon. Eventually, he reaches Dagobah Beach and clears out a tiny area that he's in. Able to look up around him, he sees the large massive stars and the moon. Able to sit and stare, calm, hearing the tranquil waves, closing his eyes, breathing in and exhaling, almost matching the pattern of the waves, when suddenly he hears something behind him break, or move to the side. He's not sure. Midoriya snaps back into focus, and turns around quickly, jumping to his feet, getting in a fighting stance. But he doesn't know where it came from. Looking around, panicked, Midoriya shouts, "Alright. Who's there? What's there? Show yourself now." Midoriya does this, and suddenly All Might comes out. As soon as Midoriya sees All Might's skinny figure, Midoriya puts his arms down, needing not to defend himself from anymore. All Might gestures toward an open area that he had cleared out with his quirk earlier when he was pondering. Midoriya, although at first reluctant, decides that he will take a seat with All Might. All Might sits down on the cleared area, and eventually Midoriya sits down too, not too close, but not far enough to warrant being rude. All Might tries to speak, but when he does, all that comes out is short stutters and slight gasps for air, when suddenly Midoriya looks at him. Stealing All Might's nerves, he says, I'm sorry. I didn't mean what I said on that roof. It wasn't merely a judgment of character, it was for your own safety. I'm sorry, but hearing everything, I could not bear to see someone like you Start becoming a hero and hurt yourself. Midoriya continues to look at All Might, sighing, shaking his head as he does so. Midoriya then stands up and walks away. All Might tries to stop him, but his wails and echoes slowly fade into nothingness as he realizes that Midoriya won't stop. Midoriya continues walking away, ultimately deciding that he's going to head back home for the night, being too tired of this to bear. Midoriya goes back home. His mother, passed out drunk on the couch yet again. He grabs the bottles, cleans them up, cleans the entire kitchen, grabs his mother. With his increased strength, is able to carry her to her room, tuck her in, turn off all the lights, and lay down on his ground bed, staring at the ceiling, not knowing what to do from this point on. Just staring, not needing sleep from staying up for so many hours upon hours on end, not needing sleep, all because of his quirk, and how it has caused his brain to no longer need rest like it usually did. Sure, he needed rest, but nowhere as much as he needed before. We cut back to All Might's point of view. All Might tries to talk Midoriya into getting One for All, but Midoriya just had walked away. All Might tried to keep calling, but his wails were met by nothingness. All Might just sat there for another few hours, pondering on what he could do. Midoriya wouldn't even talk to him anymore, let alone accept any quirk that he's given. All Might needs to find some way else that he's able to get Midoriya to take the quirk. Either some way else, or give him a reason to need to take the quirk. But All Might doesn't want to go and do something that drastic, especially as being the number one hero. Later that day, back with Midoriya. Later that day, or well, the next day actually, Midoriya wakes up on the floor. Nowhere else to really wake up, and decides that he's going to go and train for the 3 months. Midoriya goes to Deku Beach and decides that he's going to make a goal for himself to clean up the beach, because at least if he's going to be doing something like training, the least he could do is try and clean up the city, or clean up the planet, period. So, Midoriya goes and cleans Deku Beach. With constant working, Midoriya shreds, rips his hands open by all the harsh amounts of metal pieces, punctures his hand with screws, and many things of the sorts, gets hit by many kinds of ailments such as rust and decay and more rust. All of these things happening and coming into his body, allowing Midoriya to get more resistances to kinds of rust and toxicities, upping his ability to handle poisons, as well as Midoriya getting far stronger from him ripping and tearing his muscle fibers and letting them regrow. But of course, due to his quirk, his muscle fibers regrow a lot faster than any person would. And after only a few weeks, Midoriya is getting ridiculously strong. He's able to lift up multiple washing machines, 2 or 3. Granted, that's with all of his hands, but still the progress is still there. Midori continues, but it appears that he has reached some kind of cap, some level, a level barrier, and he needs to find a way to get stronger, but he can't. At this current moment, Midori is Midori is able to hold 5 refrigerators worth of weight with both arms. Granted, these refrigerators are full of other metals, so give or take 6 refrigerators worth of strength. So Midoriya in this what if is no slouch, but he's not gonna have one for all. Well, I'm not sure yet. If you guys want him to have one for all, you can comment down below of him having it. If not, then if not. But Midoriya doesn't only gain a strength boost from this. His hands are no longer able to get sliced by the various amounts of metal that are strewn across the entirety of Dagobah Beach. No longer get punctured by the screws, no longer affected by any of the rust, or the decay, or the mold. And he's a tremendous amount faster due to him tearing his muscle fibers to even move with such horrendously heavy objects on him. So now, Midoriya without them feels like he's gliding on air whenever he runs. And for obvious reasons, that's good. By the end of the 3 months, Midoriya had actually cleared the entire beach. In fact, he had a few days to spare. The reason I say this is because due to Midoriya's adaptations, he no longer needs to go home, go to sleep. The only reason Midoriya goes home is every few days he goes home to go and eat something. That I'd say maybe takes an hour, 2 hours at the most. So he's able to get work done constantly on that beach. And Midoriya's progress shows the nice, clean sparkle over the beach. The easy waves splashing over as the sunset rises upon Midoriya finishing everything. And the reason I say that this is only Midoriya's work and whoever All Might's going to have train in this what if isn't here is because when All Might was scoping for places to go to help train his student, he saw Midoriya at Dagobah Beach and didn't want to interrupt him, knowing that their relationship is already so shaky, so he just left Dagobah Beach alone for Midoriya to do. And yeah, after this, Midoriya heads over to UA by himself, not able to rely on his mom for any of it. And upon getting to UA, he grabs his book bag and slowly walks in. He clutches his book bag and slowly walks in. He notices that there's some kind of uneven lip on the floor, and begins walking around it when suddenly... Sorry, the video cut again. Midoriya notices a little lip on the ground, some kind of uneven pathing the floor. Midoriya shakes his head, thinking that this is Yua, slowing himself a little bit as he's doing so, and moves away from the crack. And suddenly a girl who was walking behind him trips over. Instinctively, Midoriya turns over and catches the girl midair before she can fall. The girl blushes and thanks Midoriya before running off. Thinking that person was odd, he makes a mental note of someone with orange hair to keep in mind for later. Midoriya keeps walking in, and lo and behold, he's seated next to Bakugo. As President Mike is there explaining everything, a loud boy with blue hair suddenly sprouts up. "Excuse me, this is extremely unprofessional for a school as prestigious as you are to have completely and totally forgotten about another totally different robot that has not been explained to this moment. If this is a mis... If this is a mis... Ugh. If this is a if this is a misplaced piece of information by UA's part, it is extremely shameful for them to call themselves the top hero in high school." Midori was about to stand up and say something else, or Midori was about to stand up and say something to Ida, but then Ida confronted Midori before he could do the same. "And you, the oh you should see a doctor. But before that, you need to stop muttering. It's causing an extreme distraction to everyone around." Midori shakes his head and rubs his temples, slightly irritated at this noisy blue boy, but ultimately doesn't say anything, wanting to avoid confrontation. Our President Mike states, "I was going to get to that part if you're just going to listen. The fourth robot, is Zero Pointer. It really isn't worth going after, so try to avoid it as much as you can. It's kind of the big obstacle, you know?" And with that being said, move on to the tests. Midoriya and Bakugo look at their IDs and notice that they're going to be taking their practical test in a completely different area, having already taken their written portion. Suddenly, Bakugo speaks up. "It looks like they're separating us. They don't want people who are familiar with each other to go into the same areas." Midoriya ignores this and walks over to his area. Midoriya sees the person who had tripped earlier, who he had saved from falling onto the pavement, and decides to leave that person alone, not wanting to talk to anybody. Midoriya just stands there, in the back, waiting. Ida doesn't really have a reason to talk to him, because, well, there is no reason. Midori doesn't need to be talking to. He's not bothering anyone. At this current moment, anyway. So, what's the point? Suddenly, President Mike opens the doors, and Midori makes a sprint through. Ida starts blabbing that this man is cheating and that he should be expelled immediately. Or, not expelled, but taken out of the pool of heroes immediately if he's cheating in such a manner, in such an obvious way. But President Mike shakes his head and states, "Hurry up, get out those doors. There's no countdown in a real battle. You should be all following that kid's lead." Ida suddenly is clearly shocked and sprints after him, able to catch up to his speed relatively easily. But for someone without a speed quirk, Ida has to say that he's impressed. As Ida runs past Midoriya, Midoriya still destroys anything in his way. Any robots, anything. Picks up random things from the ground, stones, rocks, light posts, and uses them as weapons. Upon picking up a light post, many people around are extremely confused, seeing how fast he was earlier, assuming that he had some kind of speed quirk. Obviously, not to the degree of Ida, but, some kind of enhancement at least. Assuming that he had some kind of physical enhancement, they shook it off until a three-pointer, one of the stronger attacking robots at the time, hit Midoriya. But instead of, Midoriya taking any kind of damage, he kind of stood there and took it like nothing happened. And just ripped the arm of the robot off and beat the three-pointer with its own arm. Midoriya keeps going through all of these robots, destroying all of them easily, nonchalantly, in such brutal and horrible ways. But nobody really cares because they're just robots. But the teachers, on the other hand, are extremely surprised that something so simple as killing robots could leave them with such stomach knots, as all the teachers stare on at the kid named Izuku Midoriya, stacking up points like no other, demolishing all of these 1, 2, and 3-pointers with such malice, it feels like, despite having such a cold and empty expression on his face. All Might has his hand covering half of his face, knowing that this is the kid that he said he couldn't be a hero to, deciding to stay quiet for the time being. Nezuko then speaks up. Toshi, it appears that you know this child. You appear quite distressed. Would you like to share anything? All Might looks down at his hand that was once covering his face, clutching it. Yes, I had once told that boy he couldn't be a hero. The entire area of heroes looked at him, surprised and shocked, with faces of surprise and, shock plastered all over them. You told this kid he couldn't be a hero. Why? Asked one teacher from the corner, that being Aizawa. All Might said that he didn't know. He just didn't want this already damaged and bruised kid to go down that kind of path. Though he never took into consideration the repercussions of what it would have. What kind of things would happen. Aizawa shook his head, pinching the bridge of his nose. God, for the #1 hero, you sure are dense. Looking away, and back to Midoriya, they notice how many scars he has, the pure amount of battle damage that he has for such a young age. It's not right. Something's definitely wrong with him. But they decide to keep it to themselves for now. Going back to Midoriya's point of view, he's destroying robots, and suddenly, the ground starts shaking. He doesn't know what it is until he sees a ton of students running from the front behind him, running back towards the entrance, even though they were far ahead of him. Confused, Midoriya looks into the general direction, his glasses now adjusting to the far sight. A large metallic robot, absolutely colossal, green in nature, just like all the other pointers, or just like all the other 1, 2, and 3-pointers. But this one was different. This one was as tall as buildings, if not larger. Midoriya didn't know what to do. He looked around and saw nothing. Buildings, but that's it. Himself in the mirrors. Midoriya, not wanting to risk anything, runs away until he hears someone call for help. Someone had their leg caught, and in this timeline, it's Naru Araka. It's someone with large hands trying to push the rubble off of themselves. Though able to push some, they're not able to push everything. Midoriya sees this person and instinctively runs towards them, not knowing why, not knowing how, but he's there as fast as he can, faster than he thought he could move, shocking Tenya Ito out, out of everyone, shocking Tenya Ito the most. Midoriya lifts up the rubble, able to slide Kendo under. Well, I guess that reveals who it was. Able to slide Kendo out from under the rubble. Midoriya asks if she's okay, but she winces in pain upon seeing her ankle slightly bloodied because of the broken nature of it, and that rubble had fell on it slight amounts of time ago. Midoriya looks down at the bloodied ankle and thinks, knowing that there's not much time left before the zero-pointer runs them over. Midoriya decides to pick the girl up on his back and run away. Midoriya, only slightly outpacing the zero-pointer, decides that he needs to do something about it now because he's not sure if his stamina will keep up. So Midoriya looks back at the zero-pointer and asks Kento if she can make her hands big like she had before. She tries, and it works. She makes her hands big, but wonders why. Midoriya asks if she can cling onto a building and see if they can climb up that way. He asks for bigger hands so they would have an easier time climbing up with the grip. Kendo understands and helps Midoriya climb up. Kendo does this, and they climb. Midoriya is able to carry her, and they're able to climb up the building. Midoriya could have done this himself, but it was a lot faster with Kendo. Midoriya then placed her down on top of a building he felt was safe, and told her to stay there. Midoriya then jumped off the building, scaring Kendo, but immediately when she looked down, she noticed that Midoriya was charging directly at the zero-pointer, falling in the sky from where he was to where the zero-pointer was. The zero-pointer being surprisingly close for where the building was. Granted, Midoriya did only, jump a certain amount. He couldn't have jumped super high, but he jumped enough. With the limited height that Midoriya had, Midoriya formed his body into a spear shape, his hands at the front and feet at the back, diving directly at the zero-pointer, picking up speed, quickly, very quickly. And suddenly, Midoriya pierces through the zero-pointer and makes a huge hole in it. Well, not huge, about slightly bigger than his area was, but it's still a hole through the zero-pointer. This causes the zero-pointer to fall back. Kendo is sitting on top of the roof, completely paralyzed with fear. She just saw this boy jump off of a building, spear a zero-pointer, and now the zero-pointer had just landed on him. For all that she knew, this boy was dead. Panicking, she tried to climb back down with her broken ankle, but suddenly, out of the large amount of rubble, Midoriya just walked out. He slightly climbed out, like nothing had happened, and began walking back towards the exit. And upon doing that, what's his face? President Mike came upon the speakers, and that's it for the test. Recovery Girl will be sitting at the entrance, coming to heal anybody who needs healing, and, well, that's about it. Wait for your results, see if you get in. Alright, heroes, potential heroes, and newbies, see you later. As students begin walking out, staring at Midoriya with pure astonishment and terror, seeing this battered and bruised child or not nearly, actually go through the zero pointer and just have it fall on top of him, then walk away like nothing happened. Recovery Girl, of course, prioritized her healing to where that child was, but Midoriya shook it off like it was fine and pointed Recovery Girl into the direction of Kendo. Midoriya got over there quicker, obviously, and picked her up to help Kendo move. Kendo had blushed, but that was a second on her mind. The primary was asking him one question: "How did you know you would survive such a fall? And such damage? How'd you know you would survive?" Midoriya looked coldly and answered with this simple phrase: "I didn't," and walked away. Kendo extremely concerned now. Ask him again. You didn't know? Then why'd you do it?" Midori doesn't respond and continues walking away. Completely and totally confused, Kendo just doesn't know how to feel. Getting healed by Recovery Girl. Recovery Girl tries to go and heal Midoriya next, but he's gone. Not receiving any healing. She's concerned too, seeing how damaged that boy was, but knows that she will eventually see him again. Hopefully. And some time passes, and Midoriya gets something in the mail. His mom, not caring, just drops it off outside of his door before walking away and doing whatever she was doing prior. Midoriya picks up the letter. Slightly heavier than a normal letter would be. Midoriya is just thinking about how heavy his rejection letter must be, for them to have made it this heavy. Because there's no way a letter of success would be this dense, right? Midoriya opens the package to see a little disc, places the disc on the table, and a hologram projection of All Might shows up on the screen. "Young Izuku Midoriya. I'm sure you know my face already, but I am here to tell you that you had passed number 1, in fact. Well, no, number 2, actually. Yeah, Midoriya would be number 2. You passed with a number 2 score, only scoring behind someone from your school, Katsuki Bakugo. Very impressive. But unlike Katsuki Bakugo, you had scored hero points, which technically puts you into the lead. But, counting on villain points alone, Katsuki Bakugo had scored 60 points and you only 42. Though on the other hand, you had scored a full 50 hero points. You might be wondering to yourself, you can clearly tell what villain points are, but what are hero points? Hero points are actions that are done to help other students in their goals of becoming a hero. You had saved the young girl known as Itsuka Kendo, and she was extremely grateful. Obviously, who wouldn't be grateful at their life being saved? But they were extremely concerned about you, Midoriya. About you spearing the whole zero pointer and falling, and having it fall on you after that. and then walking away, and not getting healed. Why, Midoriya? A light cough is heard from behind the screen, and All Might's like, wait, oh, that's right, I'm sorry. I have so many other people to do this for. All Might then comes into a slightly less loud tone of voice, one for only Midoriya to hear. Midoriya, I will be teaching at the school you're going to at UA, and I I want you to take my quirk. I know I've said this so many times, but before All Might could finish the message, Midoriya breaks his thing before All Might's able to finish. Knowing that this is a pre-recorded message and that All Might isn't actually talking to him specifically, he broke it. Or, well, knowing that All Might was only speaking to him, so he doesn't need to worry much about what he said, considering that it was about inheriting the quirk. So Midoriya just breaks the projection, and that's about it for this what if. This video ended up being a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, all the things that I said earlier, like, subscribe, make sure to watch all the playlists so that you know what's happening constantly. I'll try and upload as fast as I can, and with credits to Centipede. That's all. With that being said, see ya.